Golf didn't change just because of new clubs or a better swing. It changed because of big moments that shook things up in a big way. From kids beating champs to a weird ball made from tree goo. These moments flipped golf on its head. Here are 5 times golf didn't grow, it blew up. Number 5, Tiger Woods at the 1997 Masters.
For birdie. Can you believe it?
Tiger didn't just show up in 97, he crashed the golf party like a Greek god showing up at a mini golf course. Picture this, 21-year-old built like a track star swinging like Zeus on pre-workout and striding through Augusta like he owned the place. Spoiler, by the end, he basically did. Let's rewind for a second, shall we? The kid had already dipped his toes in the Augusta waters, made the cut as an amateur in 95, flopped in 96, and then, boom, 97 rolls around and storm hits. His first round as a pro starts off shaky, his 4 over par on the front 9. Cue the crusty golf guys whispering about too much hype and just another hot shot. Yeah, well, then Tiger nukes the back 9 with a 6 under 30, like it's a video game with the cheat codes on. That wasn't just a comeback, it was a warning shot. By the time he was done wrecking Augusta, the scoreboard looked like a crime scene. Rounds of 70, 66, 65, 69, 18 under, 12-stroke win, 12. Let that sit for a second. That wasn't a victory, it was a public dismemberment. Still, the biggest margins at the Masters, still jaw-dropping. But here is where it really gets wild. This wasn't just about golf, this was about breaking the country club mold with a sledgehammer. Augusta, deeply white, deeply male, deeply uptight, had led its first black player, Lee Elder, in just 22 years earlier. Tiger didn't just win, he made it undeniable that golf would never look the same. That fairway got real colorful real quick. Suddenly kids who'd never touched a club before were watching golf with eyes wide open. Brands were foaming at the mouth. TV execs were throwing cash around like it was blackjack night in Vegas. Tiger wasn't just a player, he was the show. Fit, focused, intimidating, and unapologetically good. Gone were the days of paunchy, half-limping golfers and cockies. Now we had athletes, ripped ones, with swagger. They call it the Tiger effect, but honestly that makes it sound too gentle. This wasn't a ripple, it was a shockwave. Prize money ballooned, endorsements exploded. Other players, they started working out just to keep up. The beer gut era was over. This was the six-pack revolution. Tiger turned golf into a global adrenaline-pumping, full-contact spectacle without anyone getting tackled. And when he lifted that green jacket, it wasn't just history. It was a reset button. Golf before Tiger, black and white reruns. Golf after Tiger, full HD with surround sound with corporate sponsors begging to throw money at whoever stood next to him. Number 4, Arnold Palmer at the Grand Slam Vision.
Tell you something. He says, if I ever have a putt for my life, I'm going to come and get you to putt it for me.
That just sent a chill through me.
Isn't it fun?
Arnold Palmer was the guy your grandma swooned over and your grandpa wanted to grab a beer with. He looked like he could fix your carburetor and break your heart in the same afternoon. But more importantly, he turned golf from a tweed-wearing pastime for bankers into something with guts, grit, and just a little danger. Early 60s, Palmer was riding high. But 1960s, that was his year. Started off by winning the Masters with a walk-off finish. Birdies in the last 2 holes like he was out for blood. Then he hits the US Open down 7 strokes going into the last round. He leans over to Bob Drum, a sports writer who probably chain smoked between sentences, and says, "What if I shoot 65? Translation, what if I go nuclear?" And he does. Boom! Drives the green on a par 4 to open, then burns through the round like his pants are on fire. He wins, makes headlines, sells tickets. Golf suddenly has a leading man. Then he hops a flight to Scotland. First-class charm, second-hand clothes, and he and Drum started spitballing. The old Grand Slam the Bobby Jones wants with all the amateur stuff. Too dusty? Palmer says, screw it, let's do it right. Masters, US Open, the Open, PGA, the Big Four, Drum writes it up. Golf history gets a rewrite. He almost pulls it off that year, comes one shot short at St. Andrews, just one measly stroke behind Kel Nagel, whose name sounds like a plumber from Liverpool, but hey, he's got the job done. Palmer doesn't mop, though. He shows up the next 2 years and wins the Open back-to-back. Suddenly, all those American pros who used to skip the Open because of jet lag and terrible sandwiches, they're booking flights. Palmer made the Open matter, gave it some star power and his swagger. That was just the start. Enter Mark McCormack, lawyer, dealmaker, hype man. Together, they don't just build Palmer Inc., they build a modern athlete brand with endorsement TV spots, autograph signings that look like rock concerts. This wasn't just a man playing golf. It was a man selling the idea of golf. And it worked. By the time Tiger came along, the blueprint was already laid out. Charm them, dazzle them, make them dream. Arnold didn't invent cool, but he sure as hell made it part of the PGA. Number 3, Watson and Nicklaus rewrite greatness at Turnberry.
Got to go back and hit a shot, and I did. I went back and hit a pretty fair shot pretty close to the hole, and then I walked up and watched Jack take this mighty swing out of this heavy rough, and that ball came out like this, and I said, only Jack could hit it like.
It was hot enough to cook haggis on the freeway. Turnberry, 1977, 2 men, 1 golf course, a duel so sweaty and intense it could have passed for a love triangle with a flagstick. Jack Nicklaus, the gold-plated poster boy of golf, still smelling of trophies and cigar smoke, stood toe-to-toe with Tom Watson, the younger model with that hungry look he'd been chewing nails for breakfast. After 3 rounds, these two were tied up like a bad rom-com plot, miles ahead of everyone else, who may as well have been playing putt-putt. Saturday turned into a 2-man theater. Every shot was a jab, every putt a punch. It wasn't golf anymore. It was gladiator stuff minus the lions. Nicklaus pulled ahead by 3 after just 4 holes. Jack being Jack, he probably thought it was all wrapped up and time for champagne. But Watson wasn't here to smile politely and finish second. He bit into the round like a man with something to prove. That bomb he dropped in 15th, that putt wasn't just a lie. It was a message. 1 hole to go, just 1 measly hole separating victory from regret. Nicklaus, into the rough naturally, then, because golf gods like to toy with mortals, he drained a 35-footer like he'd rehearsed it in a dream. Crowds lose it. Mayhem. You could hear retirees sobbing into their bucket hats. Watson stood there ice cold like he'd been waiting for this scene all week. Slid his birdie from 2 feet, game over, mic drop. Nicklaus had played like royalty. Watson played like he wanted the crown melted down and turned into a belt buckle. Watson 65 beat Jackson 66. Third place, Hubert Green, was basically on a different planet. This wasn't a technical battle. It was a drama that should have come with popcorn. And as the 2 of them walked off the green, arms draped like prom dates, they weren't just spokesmen. They were the blueprint for how to fight like hell without turning into petty clowns. The showdown elevated the Open stature globally. No longer just Britain's crown, it became essential viewing for a global golf audience. The duel became folklore. The 18th hole is still known as the Duel in the Sun. Number 2, Steve Ballesteros, 1979 Open victory.
And it's a good one.
Steve Ballesteros didn't play golf. He flirted with it, danced with it, seduced it, and left it breathless in a sand trap. In 1979, at Royal Lytham and St. Anne's, he just didn't win the Open. He turned it into a flamenco performance with a scorecard. The course was nasty. Winds howling, pins tucked like secrets, bunkers grinning like bullies. Most players were clenching their teeth. Steve, he was grinning like the guy who showed up to the test with answers written on his sleeves. And when his drive on the 16th went ricocheting into the car park, literally a car park, you'd think he was cooked. Not Steve. He peeked over a sedan, saw daylight like a mischievous kid peeking through blinds, and just launched a wedge over the vehicle. Ball landed 15 feet from the cup, like he'd planned it all along. Birdie, no sweat. Somewhere golf traditionalists were having fainting spells. Steve didn't just win. He cracked open the coffin European golf had been stuck in. First continental European champ since 1907. Youngest champ of the 20th century. The whole Europe can hack it narrative evaporated like spilled gin on the green. And the ripple effects? Wild. Steve didn't just inspire, he ignited. Faldo, Langer, Lyle, they didn't just show up. They charged up like backup dancers who finally got the spotlight. The Americans had been hogging the Ryder Cup stage forever, but in '85, Europe smacked them. In '87, they did it in the US on their lawn. Steve wasn't just a player, he was an event. Charisma oozed off him. He wasn't scared of anyone, wasn't ashamed of flair, and didn't care if your coach thought his technique was weird. He made the Ryder Cup hot, he made majors unpredictable, and he made the golf gods take notice that the continent wasn't asleep anymore. He showed that creativity, grit, and fearlessness could win majors, and that Europe had plenty of all three. Number 1, the caddy who stole the US Open in American hearts.
50th anniversary championship. Do you remember this tee?
Oh, very well indeed. My first tee shot went 40 yards.
I remember that too, in that heavy rough out there.
That is right. It was awful rough.
And it was a little wet too.
And quite wet.
Back in 1913, golf in the US was basically a polite formality. The Brits flew in, collected trophies, and left the locals clapping like background extras. The US Open, just a ceremonial stop on their victory tour. Then this 20-year-old American kid shows up, Francis Ouimet. No fancy lineage, no royal golf pedigree, just a former caddy from across the street with the nerve to crash the party. Oh, and his caddy, a 10-year-old named Eddie Lavery, who looked like he should have been selling lemonade, not reading greens. But there they were, ready to square off against two British titans, Harry Vorden and Ted Ray, both mustached, legendary, and absolutely not expecting to be harassed by a teenager and a boy who needed a step stool to see the fairway. Ouimet wasn't intimidated. He played with his weird combo of poise and I've got nothing to lose chaos that made the crowd lose their mind. By the end of 4 rounds, he was tired with the golf gods. That alone should have been a movie ending. But then came the playoff. Rain, mud, wind, the kind of stuff that makes you question your life choices. Vorden and Ray slipped. Ouimet, he stepped up, shot a 72 in the mess, left the Brits in the dust, and walked off with the trophy like he did this very weekend. This wasn't just a Cinderella story. It was a cultural gut punch. Suddenly Americans realized golf wasn't just for silk vests and British accents. Ouimet turned the sport upside down, newspaper headlines exploded, kids in Kansas wanted to swing like Francis, and the US Open wasn't a courtesy invite anymore. It was war. Participation in American golf didn't just rise, it skyrocketed. The win lit a fire under the whole country. Ouimet wasn't just the guy who pulled off that upset. He was the reason public courses started filling up, the reason country club had to start making room, the reason your neighbor thinks he's 3 lessons away from joining the tour. Francis didn't just beat Vorden and Ray, he broke the gate wide open for working-class golfers. Golf wasn't elite anymore, thanks to a lanky kid and his child sidekick. It was officially everyone's game. Watson versus Nicklaus, Steve in the car park, or the gutty bowl shake-up, which moment hit the hardest for you? Like, comment your take, and don't forget to subscribe for a hole-in-one.